What's good, guys? Gamer Critic back. Alien Isolation was just so ahead of its time. So you remember Alien Isolation, right? That first-person horror game set in the world of, well, the Alien games that came out back in 2014. Yeah, Alien Isolation. That was a gaming phenomenon that I don't think can ever be truly replicated. And I don't say that lightly. Look, I love horror, genuinely. And I promise you, I'm not a psycho. I just love the feelings that a good horror project can instill in you. A genuine level of primal instinct that, if done well, puts you on edge and on a thrill ride like no other, that makes you feel brave for just having the sheer balls to push through it. Like, it's scary, but it's rewarding. At least quality horror is. Let me be clear, of which I mean it's actually skilled in what it's trying to do. The horror that is actually trying to not just scare you, but to get under your skin, to truly unsettle and unnerve, and more importantly, never once leave you knowing what's coming. And let me say this, 25 years of life, several different horror movies and games under my belt, and I don't think I've ever played something that has got to me as bad as Alien Isolation. Okay, now let's actually start talking about the game. Let me get my gripes out of the way first, because as much as I enjoy Alien Isolation, I actually have quite a few problems with it. For starters, yes, Alien Isolation is a touch dated, so you can't judge it too harshly, but certain aspects of this game just don't hold up entirely well. Like the cutscenes, or at the very least the lip syncing for the cutscenes aren't really great. In fact, it's not just the cutscenes, it's kind of just the story as a whole that isn't really that great. I mean, I don't quite hate the story. I'm more willing to forgive it given how it certainly feels like an Alien story. It's whereas most of the same story beats that you would expect in an Alien movie makes its way here, but it's just through a video game. So while it's not really bad, it's just more bland and kind of predictable, which is a shame, because having this be a direct sequel to the Alien movie by having you play as Ellen Ripley's daughter is a really cool, if kind of convenient, setup. I just don't think they necessarily took it as many places as they could have. And even worse than that, outside of Amanda, who, let's be honest, aren't even really that interesting, the rest of the characters in this game are seriously as dry as dirt. I mean, these guys are a freaking snore fest. I'm sure someone's gonna disagree with me, but I'm sorry. The characters in this story, the story as a whole, I just did not care. And it really doesn't help that the pacing of the whole game is pretty bad. And this is easily my biggest issue with Alien Isolation, so I'll just nip it in the bud. This game has no business being this long. Look, I have no issues with long games. I have no issues with long horror games. Please, don't get me wrong. Alien Isolation is always entertaining and always packed with great moments. But also by the end of certain levels, and especially the ending, I just felt exhausted. And not just in a, oh my god, that was horrifying type of way, but in a, wow, I'm finally at the end kind of way. Alien Isolation has several gameplay factors that tend to pad out the runtime, like you got levels where you go do an insane amount of backtracking, and then having to go down the same hallway what feels like 5 or 6 times is not fun, no matter how tense and gorgeous it may be. I will get to all of that later, but it really is a hassle. And or the save system that, if I'm honest, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with. Because on one hand, it does add great tension, like great tension, and I'm finna talk about that soon. But it can also just be a huge freaking bother, because my word, save stations are spread out far. The early game is okay, but by the late game, you're getting save stations that have got to be like 10 to 20 minutes apart, and Alien Isolation is no joke. So having to go back over and over, having to replay these long-ass backtracking levels, it really just stops being fun. And not because of fear, but because after repeating a certain section of the game several times, I felt pretty defeated and bored, and I really just needed a break, which for any game, I don't consider a good thing. It was never enough to ruin Alien Isolation. I did have to do this more times than I was willing to admit. But who the hell am I kidding? It wasn't just the fact that this game was padded out or overly long that contributed to that just straight feeling of exhaustion. It is also just the simple fact that this game is the single scariest game ever made. I know what I'm saying. I know that it is a title that's not given lightly, but Alien Isolation, in terms of pure, unbridled dread, is absolutely unmatched. Alien Isolation already has the advantage of taking place in such a terrifying location. Space. Space is scary. Space has always been scary. The darkness, the fear of the unknown, the isolation, pun not intended. It's literally the perfect place to set a horror anything. The Alien franchise knew that then, and at least with the first movie and mostly the second movie, they played that up to an 11. And now here we are where Alien Isolation has the advantage of being based on such a terrifying franchise and smartly takes full advantage of that fact. This game is gorgeous. Once again, another example of my favorite thing, style over fidelity. I mean, my word, just look at this game. The lights reflecting off of the metal plates of the ship, the steam spewing out of the pipes, the labs, the corridors, all just instill that almost suffocating feeling of dread that is so consistent with its design of the franchise that it honestly may be one of the most visually striking environments I've seen in a game, and it's certainly one of the most terrifying worlds I've seen in a game. The craziest part of it, this game came out in 2014. Think about that. Think about all the games that have come out, all with unique designs and visuals, and yet it's really damn impressive what the team at Creative Assembly managed to achieve with the look of Alien Isolation. I mean, it also helps that the game is almost consistently shrouded in darkness. So I'm sure if you take a big magnifying glass to the visuals, you'll probably notice a few out-of-date visual aspects, right? But again, that works in its favor. It is as much as an artistic choice as it is a cut a few corners here and there type of choice. And then you got the staple of any quality horror game. Say it with me, kids. Sound design. And the sound design here, magnificent, absolutely magnificent. This may actually be one of the best examples of sound design in any horror game ever. And I mean that with every fiber of my body. I already talked about the sounds of the steam shooting through the pipes and the sound of an alarm on the ship, but it's deeper than that. It's not only the sounds of your footsteps that are so freaking loud, you're constantly looking at your rear and your side to see if the sound was you or maybe someone or something entirely different. But then it's more than that. It's the fact that you can hear the alien constantly. The xenomorph is not subtle. You hear it crawling in the vents, in the halls. You can hear every sound that the creature makes. And then you have the distinct sound of the machines that you craft. How no weapon sounds exactly the same. Even just the sound design of the alien itself. It's absolutely unholy snarling that pierces straight through the ears every time you hear it in the distance. This is a game that, unlike many others, has such a distinct sound to go with its distinct feeling. Everything in Alien Isolation sounds unique to that universe. And that's part of the reason why this game is just so hard to pull away from. Why it's so impossible to play this game without having fear striking you every step of the way. Well, that, and of course, the actual star of the show. literally everything I just said was all just build up to get to this point right here. The single biggest and really only selling point that I need to tell you about Alien Isolation. Like, what more of an introduction can I give for this monstrosity? The Xenomorph in Alien Isolation is the single greatest stalker enemy placed in a video game. Point blank, period. Creative Assembly struck gold with this monster. It is something that to this day still manages to leave me completely and utterly impressed with just how they managed to pull this shit off. You cannot convince me otherwise that all of the other stalker enemies that came after this game were not inspired or at least influenced by this thing. It really is a marvel the more you think about it. Look. So how about we dig a little deeper so we actually know what we're dealing with here, okay? So this isn't really a spoiler warning, but I know that some people just really love the immersion of these games. So if you want to be kept in the dark on like how the alien actually acts, I would recommend that you skip, because I'm gonna go into what actually makes this alien work. But if not, it's actually really fucking interesting. So the alien is controlled by an AI, obviously, but really it's two AI. The first AI, also known as the director, is the main AI of this game. This is the AI that is responsible for tracking the player, our progress, and our location. And while it doesn't outright control the alien, it does leave subtle hints as to where the player is or might be. It decides when to allow the Xenomorph to engage the player and when to give the player a little breathing room. So if the alien has been hounding you over and over and over again, this is the AI that'll tell the Xenomorph, okay, why don't you give the player a second to unwind, and then go back to him just as he's feeling safe to go and scare him again. Now, the second AI, or the alien AI, is what controls the alien's immediate actions and decision making. And this is where things get really interesting, because see, unlike many other stalker enemies in this game that at the end of the day are pretty set in scripted paths, the Xenomorph in Alien Isolation relies on a combination of behavior trees and sensors to appear intelligent. It relies on simulated senses and learning behaviors. The alien learns. The alien's AI actually adapts to the strategy of the player over time. The alien is finna start inspecting those lockers more. Or if you're hiding in the closet, then you can bet the alien is gonna start checking those closets more. Hell, if you start using certain items more often, let's say you're particularly fond of the noisemaker, it will start to move more carefully and inspect the tool more. And to keep the tension high, the game's AI allows the alien's behavior to feel smarter and more aggressive as you progress. At the very start of the game, the alien is going to be a little more chill, right? It's not going to be hounding you, chasing you down as much. But as you pass a certain point in the game, several certain points in the game, the AI is going to peel back on some of the alien's skills to become more aggressive, or in this case, create the illusion of an evolving hunter. And that just gives Alien Isolation that nail-biting struggle of cat and mouse survival. Literally, these two AI and all they incorporate come together to create a creature that truly feels, in lack of a more original term, alive, almost omnipotent. And to achieve that in a game that is going on 10 years old, it's just incredible. Just a fucking masterclass in game design and technology that I really don't think can ever be topped. It is something that every time I return to this game never ceases to absolutely amaze me. And then there's other gameplay stuff in the game. Yeah, that's good too. I mean, nothing like insane. I mean, it's nothing insane, right? But the actual fundamental gameplay, it's pretty good. I do have to give credit to the AI in this game outside of the alien. They definitely are not as smart as that thing, but they do try. And most importantly, they are actually pretty scary. It would be really easy to half-ass these things given the horrifying presence of the alien. Nope, they do actually deliver. The encounters with the human were always tense given the unpredictability of their nature, and my fucking word, those fucking androids, man, I hate them. I hate them so much. At least the alien has the decency to make it quick, right? But these things just walk at you menacingly. And as for really just playing the game, there's honestly not too much to say. It's honestly standard survival horror fare. You sneak, you use stealth, you occasionally do some combat. I never understood why they added a crafting system in this game. It really feels incredibly underutilized and bare bones, but for what it is, it's fine. The tools and the items feel good to use for the most part. Some certainly feel much worse to control than others. Looking at that gun, I hate that gun. It is awful. But then again, this isn't even a game where you should be relying on that gun anyway. Other than that, everything else feels about fine. The noisemaker, the smoke screen, they're just throwable weapons after all, and they never felt like too much of a hassle to throw and place and aim. But I will give credit where it's due. The flamethrower felt awesome, always, and using it on the alien was always pretty damn fun, not gonna lie. In fact, I will give the credit that actual stealth in this game, while not mind-blowing, is pretty good. I mean, you have the option to hide in multiple different hiding spots, you can use traps, and because the AI is so smart, when you manage to one-up it using your own stealth skills, it does make you feel pretty damn smart and badass. It is nothing new. It is all stuff you can find in stealth horror games now everywhere. Probably even some better ones, if I'm honest. But still, it's nice to have the option to hide in a locker or under a desk or throw your noisemaker or this, that, and the other. Alien Isolation recognizes that the odds are not in your favor, so it's nice that they give you options in such a horrifying situation. So I know some of you are hearing me just talk about the majority of the gameplay of this game and wonder why I still get so excited about Alien Isolation, why I just love the game so much. And that's honestly where Alien Isolation is very interesting. Let's be honest with ourselves. If we really, I mean really, take a looking glass to all of Alien Isolation's issues, you're gonna find some problems. Or at the very least, a lot of things that are fundamentally not that impressive. Maybe they were at the time, but looking back, it's good, but just not as mind-blowing as far as horror games go. And yet that's what's so interesting about it. It's the fact that yes, the majority of this game isn't mind-blowing per se, but the one aspect that is, the one part of the game that absolutely cleans the entire experience, not only is it one of the best, it is the best. It's unmatched, unrelenting horror brilliance. An example of brilliant game design and masterful AI. It is the selling point of the game. I really couldn't make a stronger argument than despite all of the issues with this game, for the AI alone, for the stealth experience of just going up against this monstrosity, you have to play the game. It may not be the best playing horror game or the most engaging narrative horror. Yes, you can go out and find significantly better examples of both of those. I won't lie, in my very humble opinion. But thanks to its stellar audio, gorgeous visuals, and again, the best and most horrifying AI in gaming, it is without a doubt, in my mind, the scariest horror game ever made. That is important as a horror game that plays good and a horror game with a good story. Because at the end of the day, the horror medium is supposed to be scary. That is what we are coming to a horror game for. The thrill, the rush of it all. And despite all of the issues, I will die on the hill that Alien Isolation is still to this day the best example of that pure adrenaline rush that can be found in a horror game. I won't pretend like Alien Isolation is a pleasant experience, cause it is not. But then again, if you go into a horror game, you're probably expecting it not to be. But what I will say is this: despite all its issues, If you are looking for a game that point blank period will scare the absolute crap out of you, I implore you, beg you, play Alien Isolation. Cause trust me, for all the horror people out there, you are not going to be disappointed. And my only hope is that when we get that sequel, which is now confirmed, baby, that sequel manages to live up to the tremendous foundation laid down by this horror gem. And that was my retrospective on Alien Isolation. I wanted to talk about this game for so long. I'm so happy to have made this video. Alien Isolation is just top 3, maybe top 2 horror games of all time. Every time I go back to play, it just scares the ever-loving Christ out of me. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. It helps a ton. My next video is going to be, I'm really trying to make that a review. I haven't decided if it's going to be a review on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 or Split Fiction. It's going to be either or. I've started writing scripts on both of those. So hopefully I can get started ASAP with that. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. It helps a ton. If you want to stay up to date with what I'm doing, follow me on Instagram. That's @TheGamerCritic. Be good people, and I will talk to all of you very soon. All right, peace.